But when I say that it's a mental challenge, the mental challenge actually begins before you even get into the dorm room of the Squid Game challenge. And I knew at that moment what I was preparing, what I thought I was preparing to get myself into. The reality of it all didn't really sink in until actually getting into the hotel and going through the process of being stripped of everything. Welcome to the Leadership That Shines podcast, the weekly leadership training show that's built around 3 values that show up in everything we do: impact, influence, and growth. Whether you're leading a team, building a business, or learning to lead yourself first, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Natalie Davis. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Leadership That Shines podcast. I'm so excited to have you back with us. Today, we are going to talk about a little bit of a side quest that I had last year. If we are just meeting for the first time, or you may have been a little bit under a rock and not picked up on this, but last year I had the opportunity to be a player on Netflix, the Squid Game Challenge, Season 2. I was player 336. And today I want to talk about the lessons that I learned from a leadership standpoint while playing this game. So let me just give you the backstory. I have watched the Squid Game drama series as well as the Squid Game Challenge, both season 1 and now season 2. I'm excited for season 3 that should be coming out here soon. And so at the end of season 1, they always do a call for potential, contestants for the game, people that they think, that would raise their hands that they would be interested in participating in the game. And I just knew after watching season 1 that I would be a phenomenal contestant to be on the game. Here, let's face it, I enjoy connecting with people. I am great in team setting environments. I definitely could play a killer game when it came to strategy, because that's my wheelhouse. That's what I do. As well as making sure that I build an alliance that would help in protecting me and helping me grow and carry me through the game. Sorry, it's what I would do, right? Really looking in terms of my own personal approach and what I would do. So I submitted the application, and months went by after submitting the application, and I finally got a call from a production guy, and he said, we'd like to do another interview. And I went through the entire process, the background check, the interview, all of the connecting with the entire team. It is a well thought out, well-oiled machine, to say the least. And so I received the news that I was approved to be a contestant on the game, and super excited about this. Here's the thing. You cannot really share this with anyone when you are informed that you're going to be a contestant on the game. And you have to make arrangements to head on out to record, be a part of the game for who knows how long, right? Because ultimately, if you're going to win the game, you want to be there the entire time. So you're planning your life around the entire time segment that you're going to be gone, away from your business, away from your family. And what are you doing? So I was able to drum up this plan. I would tell all of the people that I worked with, sorry to everyone. I think I've apologized on numerous platforms before, but sorry to everyone. I told my work crew that I was going on a family vacation, and I told my family that I was traveling for business. So everyone knew that I was supposed to be somewhere and accounted for at some point in time. And I left the country. The taping of Squid Game, the Challenge 2 took place in London, England. So I got on a flight out of, I believe I was in DC or Chicago at the time, if I'm not mistaken, because I was truly already on a work trip. And I needed to head out directly from that work trip. So I had my work bag packed with a couple of things that I needed. You can't really bring personal items into the game. So a couple of things that I needed, or I thought that I would need for the weeks that I would be there in the dorm of the Squid Game Challenge. So made my way over to the UK, and the first thing that you do is that you basically check everything in with the production crew, and they're, again, a well-oiled machine in terms of accounting for what you're checking in. Everything is labeled, it's dropped into a bag, it's sealed shut, no personal items, right? And they were very clear when you came onto the game that you were not going to have any type of makeup, access to makeup, no acrylics or nail polish. You had to have clear or no nail polish at all, just natural fingers, natural hands, no jewelry. So even individuals that had on permanent jewelry or items that were very sentimental to them, they wrapped them up and put them in a bag and kept them safe and locked in storage until you were eliminated. So we made our way into what I call it, like the sequestering area, right? Where you're kind of quarantined. And we have individuals that are coming in from all over the world for this game. And so we started to see the individual players from the US that were rolling in because we were pretty much on the same flight schedule. There was like a 2 or 3 day window. And we checked into this hotel. I mean, we took down pretty much the entire hotel. Now, this hotel was being renovated, and I think that they've done some renovations to some of the rooms. I was fortunate enough, and I say that with all the sarcasm that I can muster up, to not receive one of those renovated rooms. And I was actually sequestered in a room where the air conditioner was blowing cold air, and it was January in England, so it's cold. The air conditioner is blowing out cold air into my room nonstop. I think the carpet was from 1987, maybe 1977, possibly. It's definitely seen some better days in its life. And this is the room that I'm locked in. No cell phone. You have access to local television. I brought a book and a journal with me to kind of just, pass the time. But you spend all of your time quarantined and sequestered in this space with yourself, with your own thoughts. And then you have the opportunity to meet your cohorts. So you connect with people that are on your floor, on your wing, and we would go and have meals together. And we started this really, I think the game began in that moment, because you could start to see relationships form, people bond, that were bonding as we would go to lunch and dinner and breakfast. And we did all meals on a rotating cycle. You were assigned a color, and that just helped everyone to keep track of 400 plus people, right? And on our wing, there were a group of amazing women that were on my hallway that we connected, and we had all of our meals together. We strategized together. You get into paranoia real fast in terms of who's here, where they've seen other people, like other games that they've participated in. We had a couple of very influential social media folks that were in the game, and so people knew them from social media. There were people that were recognized from other games and competition games that were out there. And so that's not necessarily my space, right? There are a couple of things that I love. Love Big Brother, avid Big Brother fan, love Squid Game, the challenge. Maybe I'll look into applying to Big Brother in the future. Who knows? We'll see. Because I got to get through this side quest before I talk about getting into another side quest. So we started to bond, these ladies and myself. There were 6 of us that really started to connect and bond with each other, and we would do breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, and we did that for a couple of days. But in between those meals, in between those meal breaks, we were actually just truly sequestered in our room. I believe I had a mental wellness person that came out and would bring me on a walk, like a kind of a guided walk, just to break up the monotony of it all. But when I say that it's a mental challenge, the mental challenge actually begins before you even get into the dorm room of the Squid Game challenge. And I knew at that moment what I thought I was preparing to get myself into. The reality of it all didn't really sink in until actually getting into the hotel and going through the process of being stripped of everything. You receive your uniforms and pamsoles is what they call them, those little tennis shoes without, the Squid Game shoes that you get. And so you have a couple of pieces of attire that you can wear down from time to time. Anyways, that's it. You don't really have much of anything. That was an experience in itself. There were a few things that happened for me before going into the game. The night before the final afternoon, so I guess 2 days into being quarantined or sequestered, It might have been midday. At this point, I started losing track of time. But the meals themselves actually put me in this space where I would just get enough data or information from people that I'd start to question and second guess. I would start to get into my own mind. I'd start like strategizing already, like what's truly going on. You could see like these bonds that were forming. There were big friendship groups that were forming throughout the meals, because you could see kind of the cohort colors that were commingling and again, in my mind, I'm thinking gameplay. They're strategizing, they're making an alliance, and now I see what I think to be like massive alliances that are forming. And so I'm starting to get paranoid, get in your own mind. And you do that because you get to spend a lot of time by yourself. And in one of the afternoons between breakfast and lunch, or lunch and dinner, I can't remember, I started to like drift off into this slumber. And like I said, myself and these 6 women on my wing of the hotel, we were pretty much like in it. We're like, hey, we've got each other's back. We knew our personal stories. We'd shared about our families and the things that we had done in life and all of that, right? Like kind of getting an understanding of one another and building relationship and community. And so I had this dream where all of the other women in my wing had changed their cohort color, and my cohort color remained the same. And I was like, what's the deal? Why'd y'all switch? And why didn't anybody tell me? Why didn't anybody tell me to change colors? And so, then I'm startled and woken up by, one of the attendees to get up for the next meal. So whatever the next meal was, and I went out to the hallway, and I'm like really confused, right? And I'm already in this place of like paranoia, right? And so I get into the hallway and I'm like, hey, ladies, so here's the deal. Here's what I just dreamt. And I don't know. I mean, it may be because I'm sequestered here or, starting to stop consuming water. I'll get to that in just a moment. And I'm like, what's the deal? Why y'all all just changed colors and nobody told me? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's, just like kind of just pushing it off. Not a big deal. In my mind, big deal. And yes, it was not real. It was a dream, but big deal in my mind. Anywho, we continue on, we go through, and as I mentioned, like the process of weaning myself off of liquids, because if you are a Squid Game Challenge fan, in Squid Game season 1, say that fast, that the very first game was red light, green light. And so everyone in the game knew that the first game was going to be red light, green light. We just knew it. And then the conversations around how people were preparing to come into the challenge started to bubble up. We saw individuals that brought practice games with them, and they would practice during the meal break. So instead of actually eating, or they would eat and inhale the food and then go and practice the different games that have appeared in Squid Game Season 1. And then some of the ladies on my wing that were telling me that they would go out to the soccer field or the football field, and they would like run and start and stop, like this practice of starting and stopping and freezing, because we'd heard rumors about how many hours it took for them to actually get through that game. It wasn't a 5-minute game. It was timed at 5 minutes, but it actually took hours for the recording of that game. And we all took this pact that we were going to make sure that we made it through red light, green light. And in order for us to do so without having to take a bathroom break, we started weaning ourselves off of all liquid. And so we stopped drinking water. And that was probably the most challenging thing. I think the day before going into the dorm and going into the game itself, I allowed myself 1 8-ounce water bottle that I drank for the entire day. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I just basically consumed the same 1 8-ounce bottle of water, because I knew that I didn't want to have to lose the game or move because I needed to take a bathroom break. Like that in my mind would have been the worst way to go out. Wasn't I surprised? Anywho, so we go through this process. We get notification that we're going to go into the game the next day, and we know the final day. And it's like we had this last supper. We had the spaghetti meal and this Italian dinner, and it was lovely. Everything was lovely. It was completely fine. And the next day we're going into the actual game itself, the competition. And we didn't know what time. We just knew that we would get a knock on our door, and we would have exactly 5 minutes to be dressed and ready to go and load up so that we could head over to where the dorm was, because we didn't do it at the hotel, right? The game didn't take place at the hotel. I do want to circle back because my room was freezing for the majority of my stay there. I did eventually get one of those coiled space heaters that they rolled into my room. And so what I had to do was like take one of the towels from the hotel room and I covered the air vent with the towel, and then I turned the space heater on. But again, I want to talk about the heightened level of paranoia that you're in. I couldn't fall asleep with this coiled space heater because the first thing I'm thinking is, again, I think this might have been also from 1987 with the carpet. The thing was not a modern day like space heater. This was definitely a traditional space heater. No offense to the hotel. Thank you so much for the accommodations. It's great. But, I was able to make it through. So, but the night of going into the game, it didn't matter if I was comfortable, if the room was warm, it didn't even matter. I just knew I needed to be on my A game and ready to go. And the anxiousness around waiting for the knock on the door. Let me just tell you, this knock was not a dainty little, hey, Natalie, time to get up, time to wake up. Let's head on in. It was a bang, as if I was it. Now, I didn't serve. I've never been in the military, but I would imagine if you're getting woken up by a sergeant in the military or whoever the higher in command is that would wake you up, that's the type of startling wake up that I had. So I had this bang on my door, immediately knowing, okay, I have 5 minutes to get out. It is not a matter, and you don't have a face to put on, or you're not combing your hair or what have you. So I guess you could, but I jump into everything and throw myself out the door and get outside and line up ready to get in the game. And the level of excitement, anxiety, and fear that kind of overcomes you all at the same time was so intense. I've never experienced anything like this, right? And so, again, I'm still in my mind. I've just spent the last couple of days by myself. And now here I am about to make my way into the Squid Game challenge, which was a huge dream that I had. And so just taking that moment to actually just be there, be present in that. And I felt like all of my senses were heightened because I had been extracted from everything, right? Like how comfortable we get with our phones and picking up our phones and our computers. And I'm with people quite a bit, right? Like I'm in front of you here, or if I'm speaking or if I'm coaching with my clients, like I'm with people the majority of the time. And so having the ability to extract myself from all of that, I felt like all of my senses were ultra sensitive before heading into the dormitory. And so anyways, we head in. We still have no idea what's happening. We're all still under the impression that we are going to play red light, green light. There is a whole pomp and circumstance in getting pomp and circumstance. Yes, in preparing and getting yourself ready to head into the actual dorm to start the playing of the game. And so they started to release the players into the dorm area in batches, slowly. So I would say maybe 50, 75 people at a time, or maybe even 30 or 40 people at a time that they would release and head into the dorms. And then you have an opportunity to walk around the dorms, connect with people. And some of the guards that were in the space encouraged us to connect with one another, right? And that's an opportunity for us to get to know people and connecting with people. Now, here's the thing. The crew, my wing of people that I was with, the couple of days that we were in like the sequestered time together, we found each other in the dorm. Not a problem, right? We immediately connected, and we're going to break up, get intel, figure out what's going on, start talking to people, start meeting people. One of the gals in the group, she comes back and she's like, hey, did you guys meet the twins? And I said, well, that's interesting. Which set of twins? Because you can see multiple twins within the dorm room. And so we start looking around. We see these sets of players that are twins. And there were mother-daughter teams, but the father-daughter team, the Baylor alums that we connected. And so that's like an instant connection, right? So you start to connect the dots and see the people that are coming in as a pair already in the game. And again, red flag, right? You're a pair. That means that you already have somebody that will save you in the event that you're up for elimination from the game. And so we started making note of the people that were playing together as a pair, the siblings, the twins that were in the game. And we just came back. It was like gather intel, come back, we chat about it, right? These are all things that you don't see. This is all happening before the game even takes place, right? This is whatever production crew or the team is doing behind the scenes. We were taking, or maybe this was part of the experiment itself, we were taking the time to connect. Well, we also had an opportunity to connect with the twins that came in that happened to be the team leads for the very first game, which is the X and O game, the red-blue game, however you want to call it. And that was the very first game. And I have to say, like, going into... I want to say I'm hesitant to say that it's a first game because that's part of the trauma that I carry, is that I feel like I was a contestant on the game, but I didn't get to play, right? So the twins were the team leads for X's and O's, and we had the option to choose what team we wanted to be on because we started counting the beds in the dorm, and we realized that there were not enough beds for the people in the room that were in the dorm. And we knew that there was going to be a big elimination game that was coming up. And red light, green light would have been a big elimination game, right? We knew that there had to have been at least half of us that were going to get out of the game. Well, as we are going through the announcement of the first game and what we're going to play and getting the instructions, and we have to choose a side first before we understand what we're playing and getting the instructions of the game. And so we chose a side. My wing, we stayed together, and we all chose to be on the blue team or the O team. And we just stayed within the dorm space. So if you watch the game, you can see the blue team stayed within the dormitory, and the red team went off to another space to play the game. And it was a timed game. And during that time, we had to have leaders that volunteered to be team captains for this game, and the twins stepped up as team captains. And at the time, it seemed strange to me, just because of statements that they had made to some of the other players along the way. Neither here nor there. I'm not even going to get into it. And so they were the team captains, and I have to say, this is where I see a lot of the leadership skills and lessons, the leadership lessons that I learned as a result of being a contestant on Squid Game start to unfold. After we go through the process of being separated, blue team, red team, we then have a few moments to get together to strategize how we are going to count to 456. That's the game, right? Counting to 456. We had 456 players that were in the game. The jackpot is $4.56 million. And we knew that we had to go through this process of counting. A couple of things that pop up. The very first is when we talk about trust and the value that trust carries when you're a leader. I witnessed that, observed that immediately in that moment, because there was a level of distrust already built amongst the players, because we had been separated and sequestered, right? And we were intentionally allowed to have our meals with the people that were within that same cohort as ours, and not necessarily giving us an opportunity to mingle and connect. Now, people found a way. But for the most part, there's already some dissension that is there, right? Like there's a separation of, well, I don't know you, or I've never even seen you. You were on a different side of the hotel or a different wing, or we never had meals together, or what have you. And so when our team leader stepped into the position of trying to get control of the space, trying to command the room, one thing that he was immediately up against was the fact that we did not really truly trust one another. And to put our fate in someone's hand, especially this leader now by title, in someone else's hand, is a huge leap of faith, right? For every player that was in that room. And trust is something that it's going to build or break, like in moments, right? You don't need a significant amount of time. nor did we have a tremendous amount of time to actually come up with a plan and trust that it was going to be executed well with the people that were in the leadership positions, right? So our room, I'm just going to say, was a hot ass mess. I don't know if you've watched it, and I don't think that the filming of it captures it to the degree of it being a hot ass mess, but it was such a hot mess. It was unbelievable. And I watched so many things happen as, people starting to step forward to command that authority and that leadership role without having the title, without being the team captain, but wanting to take charge of the situation because they knew what was best for everyone. The individuals that simply stepped back and they said, I don't want to have any part of this. This is complete chaos and it's making me nervous. The people that actually shut down, the people that were getting angry and frustrated and upset, and I mean angry. I watched some anger erupt in people where I was actually concerned, and I thought, I can't imagine what it's going to be like to sleep in the dorms with this person because they are so irate at this moment. What's going to happen, when higher stakes are on the line? Not that this was not higher stakes, because it was tremendous stakes at hand here. So we get through the process, and if I invite you to go and watch. You can even just watch the first 13 minutes. It'll take you through that process. But watching the first episode, and you'll see that the blue team didn't make it past that first episode. But our team leader didn't really take the opportunity to hear the voices of the collective. And I think that that's another key thing that leaders need to remember, is that you have to listen to the voice of the collective and treat it as data, not as chatter or as noise. And I know we often think about like water cooler chatter, things like that. I'm not talking about that necessarily, but it could be key or important. If you know that individuals are constantly saying or repeating the same thing, or there is a voice that is reflecting the voice of the collective, as a leader, you should be able to pause, take a moment, and identify that, right? And so we have individuals we have a team leader that really put the fate of all of the people in that room in the hands of two players to do our counting. And that was the first challenge, was the first team to count to 456. And so these two individuals were charged. One of the individuals, before she even began counting, said, and in a very, announcement style fashion, I don't know if it's just very much as a presenter, like taking a moment to say, I want you all to rest at ease, knowing that I am happy to count for you. But if I happen to mess up, it's not my fault. Okay. As a leader, we're not going to step into a space where we say, hey, I'm happy to lead us through the way, but if this happens to fail, my bad. Not my bad. It's your bad. It's not my fault, right? And so we want to make sure that as we have the official, if you're in an official leadership role or anything like that, that you're not starting off. Again, this is where the trust started to erode for us. Like all faith and hope for me, gone. Like you said that, I'm done. There's nothing that I really need to hear, anything along the lines of having faith in you being able to count for us, okay? I'll leave my personal opinion of how that segment of the counting went until maybe a later episode, and I'll bring some of my friends on and we can talk about it, but still. Anyways, we had that in play. And so the game began. And here, again, this is the third observation that I want to make in terms of leadership and the lesson that I've learned for leaders out of the Squid Game Challenge too, is that a leader has to be able to roll up their sleeves and do what they are asking other people to do. You have a room of over 200 individuals. You've dedicated or allocated 2 people to count on our behalf, and that's fine. But at no point in time did our team leader take it upon himself to actually count. I took it upon myself to start counting as soon as the game began, because I wanted to have an understanding of how far off or how far on or close to the goal were we. And so other individuals also took it upon themselves to start counting. And again, you see those personality types that pop up. Again, those same individuals that completely unplugged and they said, it's out of my hands, I'm letting it go. This is going to happen the way that it happens. Those people were not counting. They were still there. They were present in the room. The people that already had defeat before the game even wrapped up, they were just defeated, right? Because they didn't trust the process. They didn't trust the leader. They didn't trust how we arrived at how we were going to go through the game. And again, dismissing the voice of the collective. But seeing our leader just stand there and look out amongst us, just observing, just connecting, right? Not really counting. The entire game, or the premise of the game, is to count, at least to have that opportunity to roll up your sleeves and do what you've asked other people to do. He just simply delegated the task and walked away. Just, you take care of it and you just let me know when. Well, here's the problem with that. In our group, we had other individuals that were not our two delegated individuals, our delegates that were going to count on our behalf, that started to get very close to the number because their pace of count was different, right? And so they started to let him know that he needed to press the button right away. And then you see the pressure of leadership that starts to land on his shoulders. The pressure of individuals yelling at him, yes, press the button, where there's a whole cohort of individuals that are screaming the exact opposite. Like, absolutely not. It's not time yet. Don't listen to them. There were moments that it even got physical within the space, right? Individuals, players that were pulling other players down, telling them to zip it, stop counting, stop, disrupting. And these are the people that, again, you're going to have people on your team. They see the vision. They have the trust. They've put their faith in your hands. Let the leader lead. And then you have the individuals that are like, I don't trust you. I don't believe in your process. And I don't think that you're going to take me over the finish line like I need you to. This brings us to our next point or lesson that I've learned. And it speaks to the environment that we're in. Because the environment or the space that we're in is going to have an impact and shape our performance. The individuals and the leaders, whatever role that looks like, title or no title, the space that we're in. Because there was dissension among the group before we even got into the game, started the game, before it commenced, people didn't feel safe. People are going to stop bringing the best version of themselves. They're going to stop contributing. They're going to stop participating if they don't feel like they can feel safe and they feel seen. We saw an immediate shift in energy in real time through that game. If you look at it from a leadership standpoint, and again, I have not been able to get to this point until many, many months have passed. I'm going to be completely candid and frank with you, right? And the moment that we lost focus on creating a space that was cohesive, that was supportive, that was collective, collaborative, creating a sense of community, that was gone. Pretty much all other bets were gone, right? And so as a leader, it's important for you to understand, what is the environment that you're creating? Do the people in your space, on your team, feel safe? Have there been individuals on your team that you're not hearing from them, right? They're not like truly showing up or sharing insights with you like they used to, right? And if you don't have this awareness, it's going to continue to erode at your team. And it's one of those things that will silently erode at your team. We're not talking earthquake. We know the earthquakes. We can see those coming. We can feel those coming. The small, slight changes, the shift in energy, the shift in emotion, the shift in behavior, those small subtleties, because they don't feel safe. They don't have confidence in your leadership abilities. They don't feel seen. Their voices are not heard and valued. These are fabulous team players that are drifting away. And it is going to be so hard for you to build that back up, because it goes back to that first key learning point, the trust. If that continues to erode and drift away, it's so hard for you to build that trust up again, right? The other key piece I want to say in terms of the leadership skills or lessons that I witnessed and observed is just simply having an awareness of how you're showing up as a leader. For our team lead, I don't know if it was planned that he would be the team lead. I don't know. Neither here nor there, right? Like, the game is what the game is. I don't know if he was anticipating stepping into a role, if he and his brother made a pact to do something bold. I never know that. I've never asked. But I will tell you, the moment that we found out that we lost that competition, and that entire room, all of the people in that dorm went home that day. And I mean home, not that day, but you basically walked out, dropped off your pack, your battery pack, your microphone, your ink pack, your Squid Game outfit, you don't get to keep that. You don't keep anything. I mean, they don't want to, I think we got to keep the socks. Oh, and we got to keep the underwear. I don't imagine that they'd want to reuse those. But everything else you turn back in, and you get back to the hotel and you get a packet with your flight itinerary home the next day. You're done. And in that moment, if I could tell you, watching the collective, the group of players that were in that room, you saw a wave of emotions: disappointment, anger, frustration, a lot of anger. And the paranoia did not stop. The rumor mill did not stop. Because we didn't see specific people come back down for lunch or it was dinner or breakfast or whatever the next meal was that we were connecting. Again, time became a blur, and it didn't matter what the meal was because I didn't recall what I was eating. But when we didn't see the next group of people, it was for breakfast the next day as we were all departing and getting on the shuttle to go home. We didn't see people for breakfast. And we're like, well, where's that person? Did they go back in the game? Or I heard so-and-so had a private interview, and because of their responses on the interview, they got asked to come back into the game. All the hearsay. It didn't stop. The game was over for us, and all of that did not end. And for me, I have to let you know, it was hard. It's not a clean break as soon as you get out of the game and back into reality, normal life, right? That was not a thing, because I truly was disappointed. Like I said at the opening of this episode, I don't call it a game because I feel like I did not have the opportunity to compete. I was a contestant. It was definitely a contestant. There are, I think, 3 scenes that I've been able to see myself, and I laugh because I'm like lurking in the background. I'm like, what the heck is happening? But that was all part of my strategy. I never wanted to be the loudest, the first. I'm not stepping up to do anything that's big and boisterous at the very beginning. I wanted to keep that strategy for later, time later within the game. And maybe that's a lesson in itself, right? And from a leadership standpoint, don't wait. That's what we talked about. We've talked about that on within the Leadership That Shines community here the last couple of weeks. You don't have to wait until you're ready. Just do the thing, right? Just take the step, take the action, do the thing. And so maybe that's the lesson out of all of this for me. But coming back into the real world after being on Squid Game, the challenge, was hard. And I would say there were probably a couple of months that I went through with a lot of frustration with the entire group, not just our team leader. I mean, definitely for our team leader, but for the entire group, I was disappointed. I will say, though, the one big thing, after all of this, you go through all of that experience, and we were heading out and back to the hotel so that we could prepare. You know, you get all of your personal belongings back, and you basically have to pack it and head to the airport the next day. And as we're in the shuttle heading back to the airport that evening after the first day of filming, and one of the gals said to me, she goes, I hope they don't make a meme of me of something stupid I said. And it's like new fear unlocked right in that moment. I'm like, damn it. What did I say that might have been dumb, right? Like, I hope I didn't say something stupid in that moment or at any moment throughout the game. I know that I did, but they were all edited out because I'm apparently not giving main character energy, but that's all good. It was an experience that I will never, ever, ever forget. But because I was able to go through that experience and give myself some time to reflect on it, not just have gratitude for the opportunity itself, but truly reflect on it and see so many parallels as it pertains to leaders and how we show up as leaders and how we perform as leaders, where we think we're doing the right thing and 50% of the people around you disagree, right? Think that you're making the wrong decision, but still you keep going in that same direction. So those strong leadership skills, and as high performance leaders, we have big, big wins. And let's face it, we also have big, big losses. We take some L's from time to time. And so we need to make sure that as those L's are coming our way, that we're aware of who we are, how we're showing up as leaders, that we're listening to the people around us, that we are ensuring that the trust that we've worked so hard to build is not eroding and shifting away. So I'd never trade it for anything. I am honored, Player 336. You do not get to choose your number. You do not get to keep the clothing, but you do get to keep the memory of the experience. And I have to say, it is one side quest experience that I will never, ever, ever forget. Anyway, Anyway, these are the lessons that I've learned about leadership from being a contestant on Squid Game, the Challenge 2. Hope you're enjoying this episode. Hope you had some takeaways. Give yourself some time this week. Reflect on how you're showing up as a leader. Reflect on how people are interacting with you and connecting with you as a leader. Take a look at the trust that you think that you've built. Is it the same trust that existed a year ago, 18 months ago, last week? Is there a shift? And then take a look at the people that are surrounding you, the people in your environment, your team members, your colleagues. Are they still showing up in the same way that they did at the very beginning, right? When you stepped into that leadership role. Or if you were just showing up as a leader yourself for yourself. All right. Until next time, I'll see y'all soon. Thank you for spending time growing with me on the Leadership That Shines podcast. Every episode is built around the values of impact, influence, and growth. And I want all three of those to show up in how you lead starting this week. If this episode added value to your week, share it with a leader in your world who is ready to grow. Subscribe and follow so that you never miss a week. And I'll see you in the next episode.